a quiet kitchen at night. The only sound is the refrigerator hum and your phone buzzing on the counter, lighting the room like a little altar. You're not even hungry, but you open the cabinet anyway. You scroll anyway. You replay the conversation anyway. You can feel it in your jaw tight, in your chest heavy, in your mind loud. And the wild part is this: the person who hurt you isn't here, but they're still winning space inside you. Here's the reframe. Forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness is the moment you stop paying rent to the past. It is discipline. It is worship in motion. It is spiritual warfare done quietly. So tell me, are you going to keep the chain or break it? You can forgive someone and still feel the anger. So what does that mean about you? It means you're human. It means you're not a liar pretending the wound doesn't exist. But it also means you're standing at a fork in the road. One path keeps you tied to what happened. The other path sets you free to become who God is forming you to be. This is not soft self-help. This is not therapy language dressed up with Bible verses. This is discipline. This is obedience. This is the difference between men who stay trapped in bitterness and men who walk out clean-hearted and steady. If forgiveness is real power, why does it feel like losing? Hold that question. We'll answer it. But first, let me tell you what's really happening when you can't let go. Bitterness feels like strength until you notice it's making you unstable. You think you're holding on to justice. You think you're protecting yourself. You think keeping the anger alive means you're honoring the wound. But here's the truth. Unforgiveness doesn't punish them. It trains you to stay unstable. Bitterness is a hidden addiction. It's the illusion of control through resentment. You rehearse the offense because it feels like you're doing something. You replay the moment because it feels like preparation. You hold on to the pain because letting it go feels like forgetting, and forgetting feels like losing. But you're not holding the pain is holding you. Your mind rewards the replay. It gives you a little chemical hit every time you rehearse what they did, what you should have said, what you wish you could do. And over time, that loop becomes a habit. A habit becomes a home, and bitterness becomes the basement you live in while the rest of your life sits empty upstairs. If you keep reopening the wound, who's holding the knife now? This is the real enemy, not the person who hurt you, not the memory itself. The real enemy is what you're feeding every time you go back to that moment and let it replay without interruption. The real enemy is the lie that says, if I stay angry, I stay strong. The real enemy is the belief that rehearsing the pain is the same thing as protecting yourself. It's not. You're not protecting yourself. You're training yourself to be reactive. You're teaching your body to stay tense. You're rehearsing instability. And here's the spiritual layer underneath all of it. The heart becomes what it rehearses. If you rehearse bitterness, your heart learns bitterness. If you rehearse revenge, your heart learns to live in war mode. If you rehearse the wound, your heart stays wounded. Not because God is punishing you, but because that's how formation works. You become what you practice. So let me give you something practical right now. Name your trigger doorway. That's the late night scroll. That's the playlist that takes you back. That's the texting spiral. That's stalking their social media to see if they're happy while you're still hurting. Name the doorway. And for the next 7 days, close one gate. Just one. Pick the most common replay trigger and remove access to it. Not forever, just 7 days. You can do 7 days. You're not soft for doing this. You're serious. You're refusing spiritual sabotage. Now let's define forgiveness cleanly, because most men get this wrong and then give up before they even start. Forgiveness does not say, what you did was fine. It says, you don't own me. Forgiveness is not agreement. Forgiveness is not excusing the offense. Forgiveness is not pretending it didn't happen. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. Forgiveness is not trust. Forgiveness is not letting them back in. Forgiveness is releasing your right to revenge and placing the weight in God's hands so you can be steady, clean-hearted, and trusted. That's it. That's the governing principle. Everything we build comes from that. You release your right to revenge. You stop rehearsing the offense like it's your job. You hand the case to God, not because you're weak, but because you're not built to carry the throne. God judges rightly. You don't. And when you try to do his job, you break under the weight. Let me address the confusion head on. Forgiving someone does not mean reconciling with them. It does not mean trusting them again. It does not mean pretending nothing happened. It does not mean you have to let them back into your life. You can forgive and still block. You can forgive and still distance. You can forgive and still change the terms. Forgiveness is about you and God. Reconciliation is about you and them. Those are two different things. And confusing them is why so many men refuse to forgive. They think forgiving means re-exposing themselves to harm. It doesn't. Forgiveness isn't letting them off. It's letting you out. So here's what you do. You write a release sentence. 1 line. Something you can speak aloud when the memory returns. Something simple, something true. God, I release them, judge rightly, heal me. That's it. You don't need a long prayer. You don't need to feel it fully. You just need to say it, and you say it every time the replay starts. Every time the bitterness tries to reattach, every time the memory resurfaces and you feel the anger rising. You speak the release sentence, out loud if you can, silently if you must. But you speak it. This is the altar. What you place there is no longer yours to carry. Most men keep the case open, but you close it before it closes you. So far, we've seen that bitterness feels like control, but makes you unstable, and that forgiveness is not excusing what happened, but releasing your right to revenge. Now let's talk about what happens when you keep collecting evidence against someone who's already gone. The longer you keep receipts, the more your life starts to smell like the past. Bitterness keeps receipts. It collects evidence. It builds a case. It writes down every offense, every disappointment, every moment they proved your anger was justified, and every time you add to the list, you think you're protecting yourself. You think you're staying sharp. You think you're making sure it never happens again, but here's what's actually happening. You're becoming a prison guard for a jail cell they don't even live in anymore. The ledger makes you the warden. You patrol the evidence. You review the case file. You keep the record alive. And all the while, they're out there living their life, and you're stuck in the courthouse replaying the trial. Love doesn't live by the ledger. Love releases the record. Not because the offense didn't matter, but because keeping the file open destroys you more than it touches them. Here's the metaphor. You're in a courtroom. The file is thick, the evidence is strong, the case is clear. But the defendant isn't showing up. They're not even thinking about the trial. And you're sitting there, alone, reading the charges over and over, hoping one day they'll walk in and see how much they hurt you. They won't. And even if they did, even if they walked in and said, "You're right, I was wrong, I'm sorry," it still wouldn't heal you. Because healing doesn't come from them. Healing comes from releasing the case. So here's the drill. You're going to write the receipt list once. Get it all out. Every offense, every moment, every lie, every betrayal, every wound. Write it down. And then, at the bottom of the list, you write one line, paid in full. Not by them, by God. And you release it. You don't keep going back to the list. You don't add to it. You don't memorize it. You write it once, you speak the release, and you walk away. This is the moment you stop rehearsing. This is the moment you stop collecting evidence to justify your rage. This is the moment you decide that being free is more important than being right. Most men count the wrongs, but you refuse to be owned by the record. Now let me give you the full drill for this chapter, and I want you to listen carefully because this is where theory becomes practice. Step 1. Write down 3 names, people you need to release. You don't have to start with the hardest one. Start with the one you're ready to close the file on. Step 2. For each name, write 1 sentence describing the offense. Not the whole story, not the detailed narrative. 1 sentence. They lied to me about the business deal. They left when I needed them most. They chose their comfort over my trust. 1 sentence. Step 3. Identify the lie you believed because of what they did. I'm not worth staying for. I can't trust anyone. I have to protect myself because no one else will. Write the lie. Step 4. Set 1 boundary. 1 concrete action you will take or not take as a result of what you learned. I will not lend money without a written agreement. I will not share my struggles with people who haven't earned that access. I will not return to environments where I'm disrespected. 1 boundary. Step 5. Pray a 60-second release prayer, out loud if possible. God, I release name. I hand them to you. Judge rightly. Heal me. Make me steady. I trust you with the outcome. Step 6. Commit to the rule. No replay without prayer. Every time the memory returns, every time you start rehearsing the offense, you stop and you pray the release prayer again. You don't negotiate with a spiral. You interrupt it with obedience. This is the ledger law in action. You close the case, you release the record, and you trust that God keeps better books than you ever could. You've released the case and stopped counting receipts. But here's the question. Most men are afraid to ask out loud, what if I forgive them and still don't let them back in? Is that even allowed? The answer is yes, and here's why. Forgiveness does not mean you become a doormat. You can release the case to God and still protect yourself with wisdom. Forgiveness does not mean access. Love can have boundaries. This is the gates law. Think of a city gate. There's mercy inside the walls. There's compassion. There's kindness. But there are also guards at the door. Not everyone gets to enter. Not everyone gets the same level of access. You can forgive someone and still block their number. You can forgive someone and still refuse to return to that environment. You can forgive someone and still change the terms of the relationship completely. This is not revenge. This is not bitterness. This is wisdom. God himself has boundaries. He forgives, but he doesn't excuse. He loves, but he doesn't pretend sin didn't happen. He offers grace, but he doesn't eliminate consequences. And if God operates with boundaries, you're allowed to as well. Most men confuse forgiveness with permission, but you forgive without surrendering wisdom. Define one boundary right now, just one, something concrete. Something you can enforce without drama. I forgive you, and I will not lend you money again without a written agreement. I forgive you, and I will not share my private struggles with you anymore. I forgive you, and I will not return to that workplace. I forgive you, and I will not allow you unsupervised access to my family. Write it down, say it out loud, and hold it. This is not cruelty. This is stewardship. You're stewarding your peace, your energy, your trust. And God doesn't call you to give those things away recklessly just because you've forgiven someone. Forgiveness releases them from your internal courtroom. Boundaries protect you from repeating the same pattern. Now let's talk about the cost. Because forgiveness costs you something real, and if you're not willing to pay it, you won't be able to walk free. Most men think the cost of forgiveness is letting go of justice. The real cost is letting go of the fantasy that being right will heal you. Here's the fantasy. One day they'll understand. One day they'll see what they did. One day they'll apologize fully, sincerely, completely. One day they'll acknowledge the weight of the wound. And when that day comes, you'll finally feel whole again. That day is not coming. And even if it did, even if they showed up tomorrow with the perfect apology and full repentance, it still wouldn't fix you. Because your healing doesn't depend on their recognition. Your healing depends on your obedience to God. The cost of forgiveness is releasing the fantasy of emotional victory. It's letting go of the idea that their acknowledgement is what you need to move forward. It's accepting that you might never get the apology you deserve and choosing freedom anyway. What must die? Revenge fantasies, victim identity as a home, the need to win emotionally. You have to kill the version of the story where you finally get to stand over them and say, "See? I was right. You were wrong. You hurt me, now you know." That version keeps you chained. That version makes your freedom conditional on their response. God is asking you to release that, not because they don't deserve accountability, but because you deserve freedom more than you deserve the satisfaction of being proven right. Here's the contract you're making. I will be a man God can trust, steady under pressure, clean in heart, wise in boundaries. That's the trade. You give up the fantasy of one day winning the argument. You give up the victim identity that's become comfortable. You give up the need for them to see what they did, and in return, you become steady. You become clean-hearted. You become a man God can trust with weight. The memory will return. The question is, will you spiral or will you return to God? This is the prayer loop law. Forgiveness is not one moment, it's a process. It's one in repetitions, not in a single decision. Think of it like a war room. You don't walk into a war room once, make a plan, and never return. You go back every day. You get your orders. You get your briefing. You realign. You recommit. That's what the prayer loop is. It's your daily briefing. It's your realignment. It's what you do when the memory returns and the anger tries to reattach. Most men get triggered and spiral, but you get triggered and return to God. Here's how it works. The memory comes back. The replay starts. You feel the tightness in your chest, the heat in your face, the replay starting to loop, and right there, in that moment, you interrupt it. You don't let it run, you don't negotiate with it. You don't sit there and think, maybe just this once, I'll let myself be angry. You interrupt it immediately. 2-minute prayer loop, that's all you need. Step 1, breathe. 3 deep breaths, slow your body down. The body and the mind are connected. If your body is in fight mode, your mind will stay in replay mode. So, breathe first. Step 2, speak the release line out loud if you can. God, I release them. Judge rightly. Heal me. If you can't speak it aloud, say it in your mind, but say it with intention. Step 3, identify the lie that's trying to reattach. They got away with it. I'll never be okay. I can't trust anyone. Name the lie. Say it out loud. That's the lie. Step 4, replace it with one truth line. God sees everything. God is healing me. God is training me to be steady. One truth, spoken with faith. Step 5, do one physical interrupt. Stand up, splash cold water on your face, walk outside for 60 seconds, move your body, break the physical pattern of the spiral. Step 6, return to your task. No negotiating, no dwelling, no sitting there wondering if the prayer worked. You prayed, you interrupted. Now you return to what you were doing. That's the loop. 2 minutes, and you do it every single time the replay starts. no exceptions, no delay. The moment you feel the memory returning, you run the loop. This is spiritual warfare done quietly. This is obedience in motion. This is how you train your heart to stop spiraling and start returning to God instead. The memory will return. That's not failure. That's normal. The question is not whether the memory comes back. The question is what you do when it does. Use the loop immediately, no delay. The next time the replay starts, you run the 2-minute sequence. You don't wait until you're calm. You don't wait until you feel spiritual. You interrupt the spiral the moment it begins. We've covered release, boundaries, and the prayer loop that stops spirals. But let's address the elephant in the room. Some of you are still holding on to anger because it feels like justice. Let's be honest. Some of you keep the anger because it feels like justice. You think, if I let this go, they win. If I forgive, they get away with it. If I release the anger, there's no accountability. I understand. I hear you. And I'm going to address this directly and respectfully. Forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. Forgiveness doesn't deny justice. Forgiveness doesn't mean they get away with it. What forgiveness does is this. It transfers the case from your hands to God's hands. It stops them from occupying your inner life. It releases you from the burden of being their judge. God sees, God remembers, God repays rightly. You don't. When you hold on to the anger, you're not administering justice. You're poisoning yourself. When you rehearse the offense, you're not holding them accountable. You're training yourself to stay unstable. Justice isn't you staying poisoned. Justice is God judging rightly. Here's what I need you to hear. God is not passive. God is not indifferent. God is not ignoring what happened to you. He sees it, He knows it, and He will repay rightly in His time, in His way, according to His justice. Your job is not to carry the throne. Your job is to release the case and walk free. Forgiveness doesn't say, what they did was fine. Forgiveness says, I trust God to judge rightly, and I refuse to stay poisoned while I wait for Him to act. That's not weakness. That's faith. Now, let me give you the practical layer. You need to separate release from relationship terms. You can forgive someone and still enforce consequences. You can release the case to God and still establish boundaries. Write this down. I forgive you, therefore I will. Fill in the blank with one boundary action, one concrete step that protects you without holding on to bitterness. I forgive you, therefore I will not work with you again. I forgive you, therefore I will not attend family events where you're present. I forgive you, therefore I will require supervised visits only. Forgiveness is internal. Boundaries are external. You can have both. You've named the counter-argument and you've seen that God judges rightly while you walk free. But there's one final discipline most men skip entirely, and it's the blade that cuts the chain for good. Here's the part most men skip. You can't heal while you keep cursing them in your mind. This is the quiet obedience law. Blessing is the blade that cuts the chain. Before you check out, let me be clear. Blessing is not emotion. It's not fake friendliness. It's not pretending you're okay when you're not. Blessing is discipline. It's a deliberate choice to stop rehearsing death and start rehearsing life. It's refusing to let bitterness have the last word in your heart. It's training your mouth to speak differently so your heart can heal differently. Why does this work? Because you can't hold bitterness and blessing in the same hand at the same time. One displaces the other. And the act of blessing, even when you don't feel it, retrains your heart away from the rehearsal of resentment. If your mouth keeps speaking death, why would your heart feel peace? Here's what blessing looks like in practice. It's not reaching out to them. It's not sending a message. It's not making contact. It's between you and God. You pray one line. That's it. One simple sentence. God bless them. Give them what they need. Heal what's broken in them. That's the blessing. You're not asking God to ignore what they did. You're not asking God to pretend it was fine. You're asking God to do what only He can do. Heal, restore, transform. And here's what happens when you do this. You stop being the prosecutor. You stop holding the case open. You stop rehearsing the charges. Because you've handed them to God, not just for judgment, but for mercy too. This is love as strength. This is obedience as love. Now I need to tell you something important. You will not feel this at first. You will pray the blessing and feel nothing. You will speak the words and your heart will say, that's a lie. That's normal. You're not praying to manipulate your emotions. You're praying to retrain your heart. Do it anyway. For 7 days, one line, once a day. God, bless them. Give them what they need. Heal what's broken in them. And then, on top of the blessing prayer, do one quiet act of good. Not for them, for someone else. Something small. Something with no applause. Pay for someone's coffee without telling them. Help a neighbor without posting about it. Encourage someone anonymously. Do one quiet act of good that nobody sees except God. Why? Because character forms in secret. Because obedience trains steadiness. Because blessing isn't just about them, it's about who you're becoming. Most men need recognition to obey. But you obey because you're being trained. This is the forge. The heat becomes strength when you don't flee. And quiet obedience in the hidden places is where God builds men. He can trust with weight. You've learned the 5 laws: release, no ledger, boundaries, prayer loop, and blessing. Now let's make this concrete. If you want freedom, you need a plan you can actually follow when you're tired. This is the 7-day forgiveness protocol. Day 1, write the name. Speak the release sentence once. God, I release them. Judge rightly. Heal me. That's it. You're not trying to feel it. You're declaring it. Day 2, identify the lie. The lie you believed because of what they did. I'm not worth staying for. I can't trust anyone. I have to protect myself alone. Write it down. Say it out loud. That's the lie. Day 3, set 1 boundary. Close 1 trigger doorway. Block the number. Delete the playlist. Stop stalking the social media. Choose 1 gate and close it. Write down the boundary. I forgive you, and I will not return to that environment. Day 4, prayer loop every replay. No replay without prayer. The moment the memory starts, you run the 2-minute loop. Breathe. Release line. Identify the lie. Truth replacement. Physical interrupt. Return to task. No exceptions. Day 5, bless in prayer. Do 1 quiet good deed. God bless them. Give them what they need. Then do something kind for someone else with no applause. Something nobody sees. Day 6, forgive again. Same words, same release sentence. No drama, no fanfare, just obedience. God, I release them. Judge rightly, heal me. Day 7, review. What changed in your body? What changed in your mind? What changed in your reactions? Write it down. Not what you wish changed. What actually shifted. That's the protocol. 7 days. You can do 7 days. Commit to the full 7. No negotiating. No, I'll do it when I feel like it. You do it because obedience trains the heart and freedom grows in repetition. This is not theory. This is the system. And if you follow it, you will notice something shift. Not because the protocol is magic, but because you're doing what God told you to do, and obedience always produces fruit. Freedom is easy to start and hard to maintain, unless you build structure. 7 days gets you started. But freedom doesn't stop at 7 days. You need 30 days to stabilize. You need 90 days for formation. Here's the 30-day stabilization plan. You're reducing triggers. You're rebuilding routines. You're adding accountability. Week 2 through week 4, keep the prayer loop active. Keep the boundary in place. Add 1 new element, accountability. Choose 1 person, a trusted friend, a mentor. Someone who will check in with you once a week and ask the hard questions. Did you replay this week? Did you hold the boundary? Did you run the loop? You don't need a therapist. You don't need a support group. You need 1 man who will ask you the truth and won't let you lie to yourself. If the wound is deep, don't carry it alone. There's no shame in asking for help. But help doesn't mean endless processing. Help means structure, accountability, and forward movement. 30 days builds the habit. 90 days builds the character. Here's the 90-day formation plan. This is where you go deeper. This is where the heart work happens. This is where you stop just managing triggers and start becoming a different kind of man. Month 2, you're practicing wise boundaries in other areas. Not just with the person who hurt you, with everyone. You're learning to say no without guilt. You're learning to protect your peace without apology. You're learning that boundaries are not cruelty, they're stewardship. Month 3, you're deepening consistency. You're not just reacting well when triggered. You're becoming steady when nothing is wrong. You're building rhythms that make you reliable. Prayer, work, rest, relationships. You're forming patterns that make you a man God can trust. And here's the relapse plan, because the chain will try to reattach. When you get triggered hard, and you will, don't panic. Don't spiral. Don't think you failed. Run the loop. Speak the release. Return to the protocol. The chain will test you. That's not failure. That's formation. You're being trained. Discipline is worship in motion. Choose 1 thing right now. Weekly check-in with a trusted friend, or a private weekly review journal. One or the other. Pick 1 and commit. You don't have to carry this into the next season. Let me recap fast. 5 laws. Listen closely. The release law, forgiveness, is not agreement. It's release. What you place on the altar is no longer yours to carry. Most men keep the case open, but you close it before it closes you. The ledger law, bitterness keeps receipts. Love doesn't live by the ledger. You stop collecting evidence to justify your rage. Most men count the wrongs, but you refuse to be owned by the record. The Gates law, forgiveness, does not mean access. Love can have boundaries. Mercy inside, guards at the door. Most men confuse forgiveness with permission, but you forgive without surrendering wisdom. The prayer loop law: forgiveness is a process, one in repetitions. The memory returns. You respond the same way every time. Most men get triggered and spiral, but you get triggered and return to God. The quiet obedience law: forgiveness is training for steadiness, proof you're being formed. You stop being reactive. You become reliable. Most men need recognition to obey, but you obey because you're being trained. Now here's the warning. The chain will try to reattach. It will come through old triggers. It will come through pride. It will come disguised as justice. It will whisper that you are right to stay angry. It will tell you that letting go means losing. Don't believe it. The chain is a liar, and you've already cut it. Here's your commissioning. You're being trained. God is forming you into a man he can trust with weight, a man who stays steady under pressure, a man who walks clean-hearted through a crooked world, a man who knows how to set boundaries without bitterness and how to love without losing wisdom. This is not soft. This is strength. This is worship in motion. This is what it looks like to be a man after God's own heart. Let me pray briefly. You can close your eyes if you want, or you can keep them open. Either way, receive this. Father, I thank you for the man listening right now. I thank you that you see him. You see the wound. You see the weight. You see the nights he's carried what he was never meant to carry. And I ask that you meet him here. Break the chain. Heal the heart. Make him steady. Train him, strengthen him, restore him, and help him walk free, clean-hearted, and trusted. In Jesus' name, here's what you do tonight. Before you sleep, speak the release sentence once. God, I release them. Judge rightly. Heal me. Then close one trigger doorway for 7 days. One gate, one boundary, one choice that protects your peace. Simple. Doable. Tonight. And if you're serious, if you're ready to stop paying rent to the past and start walking free, I want you to do something right now. Comment the word release below this video. Just that one word. Let it be your declaration. Let it be your covenant. Let it be the moment you decided the chain doesn't win. Comment release and start the 7-day protocol tonight. You were made for more than bitterness. You were made to be steady, clean-hearted, and trusted. And that starts tonight. Break the chain.